Franchise Secrets, Eric Von Horn.
If you're not a part of the Franchise Secrets Facebook group, what are you waiting for? It's franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. I cannot believe how valuable this group turned out to be. When someone asks a question, the feedback is honest, authentic, very helpful, and it's from multiple perspectives. If you're not sure that you're getting the most accurate information about franchising, then check out the largest, most helpful Facebook group in all of franchising. Whether you're a Z, a Zor, a buyer, or investor, join our free Facebook group at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. Hey, in this episode of Franchise Secrets, I am joined by my friend Bennett Maxwell and Mike Norton of Dirty Dough Cookies. Now, many of you know that I'm an advisor to Dirty Dough, and that means Bennett and I get to talk a lot. And so I was talking with him, and he started to share with me the other day about all the cool things that they're doing with technology and artificial intelligence. And I'm like, man, I didn't even know some of this stuff existed. So I said, let's do a podcast so we can inform franchisees and franchisors of how ordinary franchises are using AI and technology to help their franchisees in many different ways. And ultimately, it's better for the customers. So I've also noticed a lot of other brands are doing this as I learned from them in the podcast. Like some of these things McDonald's has been doing for a long time. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Dirty Dough, Mike and Bennett, and myself. Bennett, Mike, welcome. Looking forward to this. We got three of us on this podcast now.
Oh yeah, more power.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so we're here. We're going to talk Dirty Dough. We're going to talk technology, AI, artificial intelligence, and how that fits into franchise and like what you guys are testing, what you guys are doing, and whatnot. So I'm excited about this. Why don't we start with everybody? Bennett, for those that don't know you, or Dirty Dough, just give 30 seconds on you and Dirty Dough. We'll give Mike more time to talk about himself. So Mike, you're up after Bennett.
Sounds good.
Dirty Dough is a company I purchased 2 years ago. It was a single store cookie retail center. I purchased it with the intent to make it the most simplistic food franchise, which I think we've done. So the first year, it was how do we centralize everything so we can ship out pre-portioned cookie dough pucks, multi-layered stuffed cookies, so we can have a very unique product while controlling quality for our franchisees. It allows our franchisees to open up half the cost compared to the competition, half the labor, much less waste. They can operate at less than 1,000 square feet. And then recruited a really good team. And we have 8 stores open, with one store opening at least one store opening every week till the end of the year, and hopefully forever. And 300 plus franchises sold in that first year as well.
Love it. How many are you opening up this year? How many think you'll open up, or how many do you have planned to open up?
I think we'll end the year with just over 100. I mean, if we really hold our franchise feet to the fire, I think we should have 120, but there's delays and we're new and emerging brand. And obviously we're flexible with our franchisees. So, but we're also selling, 20 franchises a month. So some of those will open up, but yeah, I think very realistically, we'll have just over 100. I mean, here in 3 or 4 months, we'll have 44 franchises open. That's what we already have open, plus leases signed. Once the lease is signed, they're opening. So,
all right, yeah. Franchisees, people looking at buying a franchise, what I'm hearing is there's validation. So, you always hear me talk about validation, talking to franchisees. You don't always need to talk to a franchisee that's been open for 10 years. You can talk to people that are just getting open, and you can validate the kind of the help that they've received, site selection, all kinds of stuff you can validate. So I like it when companies get to this point, because you're not just going off of the founders stores, but you are going off of franchisees that are in the trenches currently opening up. So I think it's a great time to look into Dirty Dough and any brand that is about ready to have 40 locations open up. All right. Now we're switching over to Mike. Mike, give us some of your background, because you don't come from a franchising background, but now you're working with a franchisor.
Yeah. So thanks for having me. My background's actually in tech. So taking a data focus approach, my first company was called Ovation. Those of you in the restaurant space should check it out. Reputation management and feedback. but realized there was a big problem of where customer data was coming from. And so we set out to kind of figure out how the industry can benefit from knowing who your customers are and drive more revenue. And so we created a company called Crisp, which is all-in-one point of sale system for QSR brands. And I left that in October of 2020. But the thesis there was, how do you drive a better customer experience by knowing what your customers' favorite orders are, how they engage with your brand, and how do you get them to come back? And then how do you simplify in-store operations to fulfill for that? So we did a lot of cool, innovative things. After leaving, I was angel investing for Space Station. Never thought I would come back into the restaurant space, but Bennett made a very compelling argument saying that we need to really step up our game and deliver an amazing experience with our cookies. And that's what we're setting out to do now. So thanks for having me.
So how did he get you? How did he really get you?
Well, I think it's a testament to who Bennett is. He's an abundant mindset person, and he wants everybody to succeed. And for me, what I value is the ability and flexibility to create and build what's actually needed in the industry with the right partner and with the right brand to actually execute on the vision that I had and have for what's needed in the space. And he is one that really excels in bringing the right people in, really listening and asking the right questions, and then setting you up for success to go out and execute.
Yeah, I've been with him. Well, he's asked me some great questions along the way, and the advisors that I've brought to him, he's asked them some really good questions as well. And I've been with Bennett in different franchisor settings where he's just a sponge and asking really good questions. And as a result of that, making really good decisions. So he told me about you, he was thinking about bringing you on, and I was getting my opinion on that stuff. And so I'm glad it happened. I'm glad he's convincing. So what are you doing there? Like what someone like you with your background, like what do you start doing right away, day number one or week number one over at Dirty Dough?
Yeah, it's evaluating what we currently have and then looking at the data. I believe that every decision should be data focused. I think we should be collecting data and making better decisions based on that information. So it was really analyzing what systems we have in place, and then how do we augment or tweak that so we can start capturing information and data. So the first thing that I did was really take a look at our point of sale system to really see how we're interacting with customers, how their experience is, how we can augment that, and then be able to capture data, even if we aren't using it right away. That's a big piece that a lot of brands don't look at is you can build out this tech stack, but you don't need to be utilizing everything all at once, but collect it. So in 2 years, you can go back and start really understanding it. So that was the first thing that I set out to do right at the beginning, is really shore up our partners and really evaluate who we wanted in our tech ecosystem to bring the brand and propel it forward.
I was just listening to a podcast on My First Million podcast, and they had some like data geek on there. Like that's his thing. And so like he was saying the same thing you are, and there's so much value in capturing that data, even though you're not using it tomorrow. So Bennett, like what was it about Mike that you're like, I've got to get this guy to come in and help us over at Dirty Dough scale? And by the way, like I'm on the advisory board. I have advisory shares over at Dirty Dough. So I'm a big fan of Dirty Dough, but just full disclosure, you know, I have advisory shares there. I'm an advisor to that brand. So I know a lot about it, and I continue to love it. So like Bennett, why did you want Mike to come in?
To help solve problems. So we have a bajillion problems, all right? And like some of the first things that Mike was doing as he was coming on, or before even, it's like, okay, well, here's a problem. We have our store is doing way better than expected, and nobody wants to wait 45 minutes for a box of cookies, but that's happening. Like, how do we solve that? But we also don't want to overstaff it, right? So I didn't even know this stuff is possible. So anyways, Mike comes on, he's like, we're going to install these cameras, and it's going to count who comes through the door and how long they wait, you know? So we know how to use foot traffic plus wait times to staff it correctly. And I was like, that's using tech to solve an issue and increase the bottom line of a franchisee. Cookie quality was another thing. Some of our cookies were too messy because the employee will put too much, you know, drizzles on top, too much caramel, and then you can't eat it in the car and it's everywhere. Well, the same thing is like, well, how about we use some AI tech to have a camera facing these cookies, and it's detecting not only the diameter of the cookie to make sure that it's correct, it's not too wide, it doesn't stand up too tall, but also that the employees are decorating correctly. I was like, no, you can't do that, dude. That doesn't exist. He's like, it exists. It just costs a lot of money. It's going to take us a while to implement it. But little things like that, same with just negotiating on our behalf and saying, hey, look, I had 400 stores using my last point of sale system. We already have 300 stores sold with Dirty Dough. What kind of deal can you get us? Now we're negotiating with 700 stores, right? And I mean, immediately it's like, we're already going to cut our fees by half, not like the ongoing costs, some of the transaction costs. And anyways, all of these things, because I'm thinking not, I don't understand all the tech, but how's it going to help our franchisees? So those are a few of the very first things that he came in. He's like, we're doing this, 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 and this. And I'm like, yes, we need to do all of that for sure.
And if you were to go do it on your own, try to negotiate with some of these companies, they'd look at you and be like, you're getting charged like full retail for like a single unit or 3 units or whatever it is. But bring on someone like Mike that says, hey, I know the lingo. I know this game. I've done it with 400, locations over here. We're going to have 300 here. I want an amazing deal, or we're going with somebody else, or whatever that value prop is. And I've seen this happen. I like it when there's a franchisor that's had success. Maybe they've exited. Maybe they're just starting a second brand as a franchisor. They'll do it with vehicles. They'll do it with suppliers. They'll do that. And they'll say like, hey, I've already done it with this brand. We had 300 locations. We had, 600 vans. So I'm doing this again with brand number 2. We want a better deal because, I have a track record, and they get better deals for them and the franchisees. So that's 100% true. So right there, you're saving franchisees a lot of money. So, Mike, like, what happens? AI camera measuring this cookie, seeing if there's too much drizzle on. Like when the camera sees it, do like red lights start flashing everywhere and sirens go off and like slapping that person putting too much drizzle on? Like, explain that to me, because I'm like Bennett. I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. I wouldn't have believed that it existed. Like Bennett, like it just can't be true.
Yeah, I think to take a step back of what the customer experience needs to be, that we all want is anytime we have a bad experience, we want that to be fixed. We want to know that the brand sees us and knows that they're looking out for us, so that way it's in line with brand standards. So when you take it back and break it down, AI can then measure, it can recognize when it's out of proportion for the brand standards that we set at Dirty Dough. And then being able to automate different interactions between the customer after the fact, whether it's a loyalty credit, it could be a gift card, it could be a feedback question, to be able to ensure that that guest keeps on coming back. Because a lot of times guests are willing to try a brand, but how do you get them to come back? And that's when you ensure that they have a good customer experience. And so with the cameras, it's a very simple, it's simple once it's implemented, but it'll communicate with our staff as well and let them know based on the criteria. It'll let them know the customer. It'll also let the employee know that they are up to brand standards. So that way we can reinforce with training, because a lot of time employees, if they're not held accountable, they all want to perform. We all want to perform, but sometimes we just don't know what we're doing. And if it's up to brand standards. And so this camera system will allow us to have better oversight and help our employees succeed, because at the end of the day, if we're helping them succeed, they're winning and they're getting promotions, they're working up through our brand.
So I love that. As a franchisee, I think the less that I have to be involved, the less I have to worry about what's happening at my location, the better off that I am. And if AI does it, then I don't have to hire another employee. I don't have to worry as much. I don't have as much waste, and for all kinds of reasons. So as a franchisees must be thrilled that this is something that you guys are doing. Talk about the counting people, customers as they come in. Like, what's that all about?
Yeah, I think, we look at several of the soda concepts here in Utah, and there was a unique case study that they did using the camera system. And they found out that sales were taking a dip later in the evening due to lower age employees not serving the quality of product that they needed. And so when you look at it and you start understanding wait times in store and then the quality of product, if those things aren't up to brand standards or in a range that a guest is comfortable with, I mean, you at the end of the day, you have between 5 to 10 minutes to get them those warm cookies to deliver a good experience, or else they're not coming back. They're going to look at it, they're going to remember that experience. And so you really have to win their hearts in those first couple minutes. And these cameras and systems that we're installing will allow us to be able to ensure that quality at scale.
Bennett, what do you think about all this?
Like one of the issues, again, starting, we didn't know how many cookies we were going to sell. So we staffed it with, 1 or 2 employees at a time. And then for weeks at a time, there was 30 plus 45-minute waits. And it's like, we couldn't staff enough. We couldn't get enough inventory because we were still figuring it out. Right. The data is now really helped. Like, we're doing predictive ordering. So based on, I mean, they're talking weather patterns. Like, we're predicting weather patterns to see how it's going to affect sales. I was like, what the hell does that mean? I don't know. But the point
means
is,
like in Austin, they're having an ice storm yesterday, and that means you're not going to be as busy. So they're seriously doing their weather patterns. Like, you guys are able to do stuff with weather patterns and seasonality and all that to help you.
We're using that so we know when to order the cookies, how many cookies to order, and then also how to appropriately staff it. So again, we want to be as lean as possible while providing a quick service to the customer. So our labor's low, but our quality is there. And that's, I mean, we've made several changes since like last time I was on your podcast. We started selling the cookies because we, are selling the cookies to the franchisees. They're $1.20. And then we reduced it to $1.10. And then the next price reduction is coming here shortly, and it's $1.05. So how can we pass on these savings? Now we're ordering our packaging from China as well. And it's not only is it thicker and it has an anti-grease coating, and the logo sticks out on the top like you could feel it embossed, I believe. It's also half the price because it comes from China. So now we're saving another few percentage points for franchisees. But it's really, and then Mike's coming in and doing saving a few percentage points here and there, or 0.5% here on the tech side. But yeah, I mean, my customer isn't who's walking in the door and buying a cookie. My customer is the franchisee, and how do we best serve him? And I think this tech and the data piece is something that we really need to double down on.
So what else are you guys working on over there? Might be tech related. It might just be, some cool stuff that you have going on over at Dirty Dough. Because like I said, when you were, like you said, you were on my podcast a while ago, and you've gone through massive growth. Like, the last time you were on, you didn't have nearly as many franchisees. And now you have quite a few franchisees, and you're about ready to open. By the way, some of the people that heard about you on that podcast bought a Dirty Dough, and then they joined my mastermind. So I was in my franchisee mastermind the other day with a franchisee that heard about it on the podcast, bought it, and now he's a member of the Franchise Tribe Mastermind. So I just love how everything comes full circle. And he's doing real estate search right now, and he's super excited. So what else is new? What's happening at Dirty Dough? Bennett.
Okay.
And they coached me. They're like, Eric, say Bennett, say Mike, so we don't have awkward silence like we just had.
I'm just staring at Mike.
Or they're not stumbling over each other. So Bennett, I should have said, no, if I don't say somebody's name, you just hop in and take over. That's the new rule.
I talk a lot, so I should know that. A big thing that we did this week, we were raising funds and really trying to pick the right partner. And we were in a good position because we've sold a lot of franchises. We had some good cash flow. We obviously we have a lot of expenses as well, owning the production side and owning all of our own trucks and all of that. Anyways, just yesterday, actually, we finalized a deal with 2 amazing partners to really elevate the brand with more than just money. So one guy just had a big exit. He had 150 retail locations that he sold. So he understands building and growing that. Then the other guy has several
million. It was a franchise. We don't have to name the franchise, but was that a franchise or is that a mom and pop?
No, it was all corporate. So
all corporate. The name of the company
was
large corporate company. He decided to scale through like probably raising money and using his own funds to 150 locations around the country, and just had a big exit.
Yeah, I mean, it was called My Hearing Centers. They got a over multiple. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but they killed it on their exit.
You're going to get, I'm not going to get in trouble for that. You'll get in trouble for that.
So anyways, that's Ryan, and he's just, and he's very well connected. So like, other than the money, what else is he going to bring to our franchisees, right? And it's these connections and the know-how. And then his partner, Keaton Hoskins, was on a show called The Diesel Brothers on the Discovery Channel. He has several million followers personally, plus he's connected with a bunch of other influencers. So we have that, now we can have more, celebrity type spokespeople for Dirty Dough, promoting store sales and, nationwide as well as the local markets. And then together they have a mastermind of over 800 individuals that are, paying them a monthly fee to take their business advice. So there's a big potential to expand franchise sales. And the more franchises we sell, all of that money always just gets reinvested back into, I guess, franchisee support. So what we're working on right now is the production lines in the store, in our facility. So it's built out.
Production lines in the facility that makes the cookies. So franchisees aren't, like, one of the differentiators between you and some of the competitors is you don't have a bunch of raw ingredients and labor and stuff inside the store. It's done outside the store and then it's shipped to the store.
So like right now we're upgrading. So like you look at our model compared to somebody else's model. Our next mixer that's coming in is 1,200 pounds. These cookies are a third of a pound. So we're mixing 3,600 cookies at a time with a professional baker, and the competition uses a teenager and that mixes 65 cookies at a time. So we're putting up silos of, flour and sugar, and you're like, I need 400 pounds of flour and 600 pounds of sugar, whatever. And it dumps it. Then we have a highly trained baker that's, mixing everything. Then rather than weighing everything by hand, which is so expensive, time consuming, and inconsistent, we run it through a machine that portions it exactly. And then it also stuffs it. It gives the 2-layer cookies, the 3-layer cookies that nobody else is doing. So we get a more unique product. After it comes off that line, it'll go directly into a cryo tunnel. In 3 minutes, it freezes it. And then it goes through an X-ray machine, and it goes through a metal detector, because we are building this facility to be the highest quality SQF standard. That isn't required, but that's what we want to do. And then it gets dumped into a box and it's weighted. Once it hits 37 pounds,
you need
it gets shipped down the line.
A nicer way to say gets dumped into a box.
It's kindly placed with love.
Yeah,
into a box. And then it gets shipped down and, taped up, but it's really, you need one person just checking, pulling a cookie off of each line every so many minutes, checking the weight, cutting it open, making sure that the filling, just making sure the machine's calibrated. But everything else, it's like, we don't require human interaction, which further reduces costs. I mean, costs are rising and we're lowering costs for a franchisee, right? And we want to keep investing in the tech and the processes and the equipment and the automation so we can continue lowering that cost of cookie to our franchisee. We make our money on the royalty, right? Let's be efficient as possible, because we know that in order for us to be successful, our franchisees have to be wildly profitable, and that's what we're shooting for. So it's a little bit opposite, that we start at a higher price and continue to lower prices. Usually it's you start at your price and it goes up, but we're trying to put more money back in our franchisees' pocket, and we're in the unique position that we can, because we do own the production, we do own the logistics piece.
So that's interesting. So you had a decision to make at the corporate office to say, no, we are going to keep the prices the same and not lower them for the franchisees. And that's what I would say most franchisors would do. You decided to give them the lower price. Like, what were some of those internal discussions about when you and who ultimately made that decision?
I mean, it's selfish, right? Even though I'm saying it's like, no, we're giving to the franchisees, it's still selfish, because my enterprise value is going to go up, right? If our franchisees are successful, they will sell more, they will have higher success, higher profits. They will want to open up more stores. They will give us more referrals. We will sell more stores. So I'm not going to act like, it's not for a selfish reason. It is a selfish reason, but the selfish reason is long-term play. So let's make them happy now, so we're more successful later. I'm not interested in making any money. We don't take, it's not like we're taking dividends or anything. Everything gets reinvested. So the more franchise sales we get, the better automation, the better tech, the better processes that our franchisees get. So, I mean, it was, do we want to keep it for ourselves? Do we want to pass it to the franchisees? It really wasn't even a discussion. Of course, we're going to pass it to the franchisees because that's better for Dirty Dough and our franchisees in the long run.
All right, Mike. So you're there, I bet you have a lot going on, with the cameras and the AI and all that. How long does that take to be running smoothly and be up, so every new franchisee will be utilizing these cameras to help with phone ordering, making sure cookies don't have too much caramel on them, and counting customers? Give us a timeline on what that looks like.
Yeah, so the timeline is probably 3 to 6 months. It really just depends on how quickly the data is being trained, and that's kind of a hit or miss target. You never want to roll out an AI without it being properly up to speed, and that's what's cool about it, though, is you have the ability to get it to brand standards of where you need. Now, there's things that we implement now, and going back to collecting data so you can review it later on. That's something we're doing at every aspect. There's better things, and to answer your question as well of what's happening on the brand side, what changes, one of the things that's near and dear to me is really revamping the way we think about the interaction with customers, but also the loyalty behind it, and really putting in place a program that they feel incentivized and aligned to actually participate and interact with the brand. But my bet for this brand is people want their cookies, they want them fast, and they want a great experience. And then they also want to be able to gift them to other people. And so we really want to emphasize that in what we build out into the experience of how easy it is to go ahead and order your friend a box of cookies, say thank you for an event. And we want to be top of mind as the brand to be able to do that and facilitate that. So that will all help franchisees as well, improve store revenue, and give another means for Dirty Dough to be top of mind for them.
And we're doing some augmented reality stuff that Mike's helping out with as well. So when you gift it, it's not just a sticker that says thank you, miss you, love you, happy Valentine's. You scan a QR code and literally cookies are popping up as if they were on your desk, so it's pretty cool. We're still developing that. Same thing, every week we have new cookies. Send a text message, here's your new cookies. We're going to put a link in that text message that says, see what the cookie looks like. So you just point your phone on your counter and then you can see the actual cookie being broken open, the size of it, what's inside, the color, everything. So it's a much more, interactive experience with Mike bringing in the augmented reality or virtual reality side as well.
Mike, who is doing this successfully in different industries or companies out there? Who's got the camera technology for customer counts? You mentioned some of the soda places. Is this commonplace out there in certain industries right now, or is this pretty new across the board?
I think it depends who's at the helm of the brand. I think people that are leaning into a data focused approach are wanting to approach this. I think some brands, Taco Bell, Wendy's, McDonald's, they've all been doing this for years. And the tech is now just being made available for people at a smaller scale to be able to invest into it. It's not cheap, but it is a decision for a brand that's looking to grow and have quality control at scale and be able to ensure that their franchisees have success. But I think what it comes down to is, you have to have the right people asking the right questions and then doing it at the right times. Us investing into AI and predictive modeling would have made sense 6 months ago when the brand was super young. But now that we have data coming in, right now is the time to invest, as we have 7 stores open and are opening up 42 more locations. That's a lot of data that we'll be able to bring through our system and be able to capture from the get-go, which will train and help new stores open up as we move forward.
So you kind of answered it already, but I just want kind of a clear answer. And what's the bigger purpose of using AI from a customer standpoint? As you look at your customers, why spend the money, go hire someone like you, implement all this technology? What's the purpose of it?
Yeah, let me give you a use case that we did for some of our soda brands. We gave out 100 free cookies randomly every morning for a month to customers. It was a surprise and delight. I mean, everybody remembers their Chick-fil-A moment when you get a free ice cream cone. That cost them maybe 30 cents. But what we did and we saw in the data is customers came back 4 times as often and spent 70% more on their ticket because they felt valued and part of the brand. Now, what does that mean to your LTV of your customer or how often they come back? I mean, you can't put a price tag on that, but you need to start collecting the data and understanding how they're interacting to be able to drive that change. And it comes from the top of making the decision to be data focused, but then empowering your teams to understand that they can make it a better experience for your guests. And at the end of the day, that just drives enterprise value and more revenue for the franchisees.
Bennett, you mentioned enterprise value earlier. Like, why the focus on enterprise value versus cash flow?
I mean, I think that's where the big money is, and I don't need any more. I don't need to ride in a jet or anything. Like I'm living great as is. I don't need more money right now. So it's really enterprise value to me is reflection on how well we are serving our franchisees, right? How profitable they are, how happy they are, how many franchises they are buying. And then, one day we can reap that reward, but it doesn't, we're not in it for a little bit of money right now. It's definitely the larger picture.
All right. For both of you, like, what are you most excited about? What's giving you energy over the next 6 months? So it could be personal stuff, business stuff, dirty dough, things you're implementing, franchisees, but what are you guys most excited about? Bennett, we'll start with you since you like to talk so much.
I'm excited about a lot of stuff. Opening up this many stores is exciting. I mean, we had our franchisees. I think we have really high quality franchisees. 2 weeks ago, we did training and a handful of them came. One of them he's a franchisor as well. He has over 50 locations of his own brand. And he's like, I'm going to steal your guys' build out checklist. And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, you guys have 115 steps, like step by step, everything outlined on how to open up a store so I don't miss a beat. And he goes, that's incredible. He's like, I'm still in that. He's been in the game for 10 years. So it's not like, yeah, we're a new and emerging brand, but it's not a miracle that we came up with that. Our CEO, this is her 40th year as a CEO of a franchisor brand. She's done, close to 1,000 open stores and definitely more than that sold. So that was really exciting to be like, okay, cool. We're bringing in these really quality franchisees. Like one of them that they're opening up quite a few, and I think they bought a dozen or so. They had a dozen Dickey's barbecues, and another one owned a handful of Roxbury smoothies, and another one's 80 something Five Guys. But to get this really valuable feedback of where we're at, but also having high quality franchisees as they open up these stores, especially in different states, to get the feedback on how we can improve corporate. So I'm really excited to see these stores open in Oklahoma and Texas and Florida, outside of this, Utah bubble, and be able to serve those franchisees, really come together. Like one of the things that that specific franchisee got me excited about was the cookie subscription model. And we've been thinking about that. And anyways, he outlined it exactly how we should do it. So we're really excited about doing a cookie subscription model. And then I don't know, everything's exciting. I loved raising money as well. That was super exciting, and just, giving the pitch and then listening to the feedback. And the good thing, I don't know, maybe one of the advantages that I have is I didn't come up with this brand. It's not my baby. It's not my grandma's recipe. So it's like, hey, this cookie sucks. No offense. And I was like, I don't take offense. I didn't make the freaking cookie. I'm in it to make the best cookie for the most, for the general public. Let's change it. Oh, this process sucks. Okay, let's change it. Nothing is concrete because I'm not married to anything. So I love getting this feedback so we can pivot and move. And anyways, it's just exciting.
That's a good point, because a lot of franchisors, it's their baby. And that's a problem for me when I come into a brand with my group over at Front Street Equity Partners. When we look at a brand, if the franchisee is so married to their, the thing that they built, or it's their baby, and you start hearing that means they don't want to change anything about it. They don't really want to, they're too protective of it, and they don't want to make it better. that's kind of a red flag for me. It's something I'm always aware of whenever I'm looking at being an equity advisor or, helping out in a more meaningful way with a franchisor. Like that's if it's their baby and they're not going to be able to change to make things better for the franchisees, it's a non-starter for me. So love that you said that. All right, Mike, what about you?
Well, Ben and I were up at a conference last week, and Ed Milet was talking about selling happiness. And Ray Crocker at McDonald's sure nailed that. And I think, when you can take a brand like this and you can infuse happiness and sell it every day with cookies, how do you do that at scale, rolling out 100 plus locations and then fusing that emotion and tech? That's going to be my biggest challenge that I'm most excited about, and be able to see the benefits of having that infused and what we can do for the franchisees and our customers. At the end of the day, that would make me happy.
All right. I just had an idea. Why is Ed not involved with Dirty Dough, Bennett? Why is he not part of things right now?
I need to go pitch him. Well,
why should Ed be involved with Dirty Dough? Ed, this is why you should be involved with Dirty Dough.
He goes on stages and speaks to people about empowering them and being your best self. That is a huge part of what we're doing with Dirty Dough on two fronts. One is the mental health and like living every day to its fullest. And, we're not searching for the most amount of money here. We're searching for the most amount of joy and fulfillment. And then two, our other goal is entrepreneurship. We want to empower people by allowing them to more easily own their own business, by lowering that barrier of entry to entrepreneurship. So it's like, well, here's a franchise. Here's the game plan. We've half the cost because that's a big barrier of entry, right? And we even do mobile franchise trailers, which is even half the cost again, right? You can have a great business for around $100,000 all in, where that's pretty hard. You don't need to be an expert. You're never going to be measuring flour. You're never going to be mixing cookies, and it's not super time consuming. So I don't know. I think Ed does need to be involved because I think our values and our goals align. Now that we just brought on Keaton, the muscle, he's good buddies with Ed. Ed was actually speaking at Keaton's event. So that's another.
I saw some stuff on social. I figured it was all you guys know each other out there. So Ed was at Keaton's event.
Yep, he was speaking at Keaton's event. So now that we have that again, Keaton came with just more than money. He has these networks. So now I'm going to text Keaton like, dude, what do we need to do to get Ed Milet involved?
All right. I think I was talking to Dan Fleshman about Ed and just investing stuff. And so I've done some stuff with Dan. We're equity partners in different deals. And I can see Ed being a part of this. Well, we got off on a tangent there, but I think it's really important for franchisors. Don't just take money. Like this discussion that we're having right now, this is a discussion that I would have with Bennett offline. And like, if we want to raise some money, it might not be about the raise. It's about getting people that have the influence. And that's why people bring me into different deals, because of the influence I have and what I have in my mind, the introductions that I can make. And so you as emerging brands should be having these types of discussions with your team. Like if we could have somebody like an Ed Milet or whoever it is, like let's get them. And then maybe it is starting out with their outer circles and then getting into their inner circles. I know same thing with Drew Brees. One of my mastermind members ended up partnering with Drew. And I looked at going into that partnership. It didn't work out. But it's important to not limit yourself as a founder. So go ahead.
I mean, we had another offer on the table for several $1 million and we turned it down. I mean, like 2.5 weeks ago, it just drug on too long and there was too much games. And it's like all of my advisors, including you, right? It's like a partnership, an investor is a marriage, so don't take it just because you need the money. And that was pretty scary to do, to turn down a few $1 million that would have obviously a few $1 million wouldn't hurt our business. Right. But we did turn it down. And then we hit up a bajillion other investors and it worked out. And we got people that were a lot more aligned with what we're doing. But yes, I'm like, that is a big sigh of relief of like, man, we were so close to taking it just because it was there. But I was surrounded by some good people that were like, no, if you wouldn't marry these guys, don't take money from them.
All right. So Bennett, question to you. And then I want both of you to ask each other a question. So think of a question to ask each other that you think the audience would find helpful. But my question to you, Bennett, is like, what's your leadership style like?
My leadership style is find people who are smarter than me, let them run with it. And I just want to kind of be devil's advocate in their ear. Hey, I want to do this and this and this. Okay, cool, let's do it. But have you thought about this and that? And even then, maybe it's not even me being it, but it's like, hey, Mike has all these great ideas. Let me connect him with our CEO, Jill, and two minds, hash it out. So I don't know. I like to get smarter people that have been there, done that, and let them run with it. And me be their resource of who do you need to help you out? What conversations do you need to have, and provide the support.
So that reminds me, my business partner, Justin Donald, business partner in the Tribe of Investor Mastermind. He was over about a year ago with Richard Branson over on Necker Island. And he said, got invited to Richard's house. So not only just to Necker and all that, but he was playing chess with Richard and started to ask Richard, because Richard invited him over, and started having some just private conversations with him. And so Justin was asking him some questions and advice on stuff. And Richard said, I start businesses and then I get out of the building, like literally and figuratively leave the building and let them figure it out. Let them do it. And so, you get people that are better and smarter than you and let them run with it. So that's why Richard's able to do what he does. All right. Did you have a question for each other?
Mike?
I got one for you, Bennett. We were kind of ripping on this yesterday, but talk to me about achievement and what that means in today's phase of life and how we can instill that in others.
My definition of achievement, I think, is maybe a little bit opposite from everybody else. Because usually achievement's like, how big is your business? How much money do you have? Whatever. And because of a personal experience I went through just under 2 years ago, selling a solar company, and telling myself once I sold it, I'm going to be so happy all the time, and I'm not going to work nights and weekends. I'm just going to be with my family, and I ain't selling it. And then that wasn't the case. I was still working nights and weekends. So it allowed me to reevaluate what achievement is to me, what success is, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, but it's that joy and fulfillment. How do we find joy and fulfillment despite life's dirtiness in ourselves and others? The despite life's dirtiness is we cannot wait to sell the solar company to find that joy and fulfillment.
Love it. Love it. All right. That was a good question. Bennett, you better
that was a really good question. Mike's way better at asking questions. I mean, anybody like that we're interviewing, especially the investor, like he speaks their language because he did that, and man, he's way better at that than me. Mike, what's your purpose? Not dirty dough, but like what is your purpose of what you're trying to do with your life?
In 2 minutes, I'll add in 2 minutes.
In 2 minutes, my purpose in life is to live without regret. I think a lot of people get caught up in trauma or past experiences. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to look back and see your life. And I want to be one that says, not only did I live a life in that space of authenticity, but I helped others get there. Because a lot of the time we stumble through life and we don't know who we can turn to. And that was a scary time being a founder and running 2 companies. And I think that's what we can do and give back to help others be in that authenticity to help create. And if we're creating, we're living our best life.
Love it. All right. That was in time too. Both of you are impressive in the accomplishments that you've had, and then just in who you are as people. So I love it. Dirty Dough. How do people find you, Bennett?
DirtyDough.com. No, I have a website as well, BennettMaxwell.com. And then I try to post every day on social media, Instagram and LinkedIn and all of that stuff, to provide as much as free value as I can on building businesses, as well as me and Mike actually having a podcast together. Freak, they're trying to change the name. It's been called Deeper Than Dough, More Than Money. But I think they're trying to change the name. The producers are to Art of Achievement. So I don't know what the hell it's called right now. If you go to the website, you can find it. But we're really big into the mental health and just general health, right? I got these lights by my desk that I look at in the morning to immediately raise my cortisol levels. to wake me up and reset my hormone cycles for melatonin. And anyways, we talk all about how to increase your mood and happiness on a day-to-day basis in that podcast.
So what's the URL for that podcast now? Where can people find it? Can you find it on your personal website?
Yeah, on the website.
Bennett Maxwell.
Yep.
BennettMaxwell.com. Check it out. All right, guys, I got to go to the franchisee mastermind. I got Tommy Mello coming on. Thank you both for hanging out with me today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.